Time is approximately forever.
Cannot afford to be so politically correct anymore. Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo.
Please continue to hold for the next available representative.
Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo.
We appreciate you waiting and waiting. What is it you're waiting for? Do you even know anymore?
These are people who work hard but no longer have a voice. I am your voice.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new live stream. Make sure you guys like the stream down below before we get started. And we are going to be putting the camera on momentarily right here, right now. And we have a lot to discuss tonight. First of all, I would like to say happy Mother's Day to all of the moms out there, of which we do have many in the audience. And also, yesterday was my birthday. Today, like I said, we're doing the birthday stream. And I couldn't think of a more celebratory stream than to do a stream about Donald Trump's rally last night. We're going to be talking about the rally. We're going to be getting to super chats. We've already got a lot of super chats. We're going to be getting to those. We'll take a lot of them during the show, but we are going to talk about the rally a bit first before we get to the people. But the rally was insane. The coverage was insane. Even the video I did about the rally, in the first, 16 hours of it being out, it got 100,000 views, which is pretty unheard of for, even some of my videos that do well to have just that much interest in that short amount of time. But you talk about the fact that it was talked about. Donald Trump made it a spectacle, and it worked wonders for him. You have 100,000 people in attendance, not according to Donald Trump just pulling a number out of his rear end like people accuse him of doing, but Wildwood, New Jersey city officials. So you want to sit there and try to undercut the strength of the rally, say there were only 10,000 people there. Well, okay, keep fooling yourself. Keep doing that. Now, you could say maybe 100,000 is too high. Even if you have a third of that, that's still his biggest rally in history on record. It was much bigger than his last rally in New Jersey, which was when he was president in 2020. That's when he would consistently, pack arenas across the country. So trying to say that Donald Trump had an underwhelming performance or had a low turnout showing, it's not only a cope, it's just delusion. And you see people on the right doing it too. And you could say maybe it wasn't 100,000 or 80,000, but it was a lot of people, tens of thousands of people. They take the picture from the airplane 2 hours before the rally starts, and already it's so many people. Then they compare it to like an Obama rally where they just take the picture from a low angle and you see all these people. It's like, yeah, it's not entirely an accurate comparison. There were a lot of people in town. It would not surprise me if there were 100,000 people there. I've heard from people on the ground there were more people there than there really have been at any Trump rally. And I've been to big Trump rallies where they say it's not packed, but you walk, there's cars packed for miles. Even 2022 in Conroe, Texas, that's the last Trump rally I went to, even though I've seen him speak after that. But he did this rally. He got a lot of people there, tens of thousands of people. That's the important takeaway. And he did it in New Jersey, which is a blue state. Now, is he going to go out there and flip New Jersey? Probably not. I don't think that New Jersey's going to swing right by 17 points, even though there has been some polling that has it close. But, it's May. It's still early. You're going to have to test the waters in some places. If Biden can go to Texas and Florida without any criticism from his own side, Donald Trump going to New Jersey in and of itself is not a bad idea. It's right next to New York, which is basically where he has to be for the trial. But more importantly, this was not a rally about New Jersey. If you thought it was about New Jersey, you've been a little head faked. And maybe it was partially testing the waters. Of course, Trump is going to say we're going to win New Jersey. You have to say that. He said the same thing in 2016, in 2020. Doesn't necessarily mean anything. I think he's going to improve a lot in New Jersey. I don't think he's going to win it. It would be insanely epic if he were able to win it, but still doesn't exactly seem like it's all that likely. But in terms of this rally, in terms of what it stood for, this was not about that. This was about Pennsylvania. This was about the Philadelphia media market, which has 7 million people, 5 million of which live in the state of Pennsylvania. And Donald Trump reached them. He reached the media. We're going to play this clip in a bit because you have Democrat strategists. They're in meltdown mode. It's the funniest thing you'll ever witness because even some of them are seeing the writing on the wall. But still, ABC, this is not Fox News even, or Breitbart, Newsmax. This is ABC News is saying nearly 100,000 people pack Wildwood Beach for Donald Trump rally. This is what city officials are saying. These people, try to be, if anything, unbiased, and in many cases they tend to be biased to the left, but still you look at it and it's like, yeah, Donald Trump did get close to a six-figure crowd. I could see it. I absolutely can. It's just a destination town. He's plotted this. He's promoted this for a long time, and he's doing quality over quantity. He's not rallying all over the place 5 times a day. I'm sure he's going to ramp up the rallies as we get closer to the election, but right now he can't do much. He's in trial. But when he's out there rallying, he's making sure it's a big deal. If he did this in Pennsylvania, probably wouldn't have gotten as much media coverage as if he did it in New Jersey, because it's like, why is he going to New Jersey? It's a head fake. It opens people's eyes. Biden's like, wait, what are his internal showing in terms of New Jersey? Is that something we have to worry about? But also, this was mainly about Philadelphia, because Trump needs to improve in eastern Pennsylvania to win Pennsylvania. And this was probably more productive for that than doing a rally in like Pittsburgh, going to the airport area, wherever Trump usually holds his rallies in the Pittsburgh area. So when you look at that, it's like, yeah, this was huge. Donald Trump going out there and making sure he can, get his message out there. But also you have to look at the fact that these are numbers from local news stations, not, news stations nationwide. And the comment section fully pro-Trump, which again, some of that might be out of state. I'm not saying that that's definitive, but I will say that they're covering it fairly, which is unique. I mean, it is true that there are some Democrats that are melting down the dumbest things, and we're going to talk about that as well. But still, the fact that Pennsylvania, Philadelphia's news networks, I've heard from people, you couldn't avoid it if you have the TV on, channel to channel switching in Philadelphia, which, that's the Pennsylvania area. The media market is absolutely huge. It encompasses a big portion of, a decisive part of the country in terms of how the election is going to go, and him reaching the people directly, him being out there, him being on message, attacking Biden where it hurts, but still being very entertaining, being very witty, despite the fact that he's not, 69, 70 years old like he was in 2016. Guys, this is peak Trump. This is the Trump that's going to go out there and defeat Joe Biden, and they know it. They know it. They know this Trump is indestructible, partially because Democrats have really overplayed their hand, but because none of their attacks stick. People are sick of them. They said people would be sick of Trump, but Trump is actually, reviving. It's more of like a nostalgic thing in terms of the fact that his administration went well for the most part, whereas Biden's has been nothing but a disaster and a train wreck. You have COVID recovery, but every economic metric, for people in terms of what they actually see on the ground is getting worse, and Trump is hitting Biden on all cylinders. You have the border, you have the economy, you have other things going on. I mean, there's so much to attack Biden on. The problem is not that he's doing well or anything like that. The problem is there's just too much of an abundance. You can't attack him on everything at once. That's the only thing that's really the downside of Joe Biden. But when you look into this, it's just an epic showing for Trump, not only in terms of the people there, in terms of the crowd, which was pretty big, but also in terms of the media coverage it gets, in terms of the fact that people that go to these things are more likely to turn out. They talk about ground game and field offices. This is probably a ground game field office killer combo on steroids right here. And it's not to say that Trump isn't going to have ground games or field offices in states that matter. I'm not saying that. But what I will say is a lot of these people in attendance, they are from Pennsylvania too. I mean, they are. This is a common beach destination from people that live in Pennsylvania. Guarantee you half the crowd made the drive, was an hour away from Philadelphia. People, of course, are going to make that drive. I've driven longer than that to go to several Trump rallies. And a lot of people have their homes, their beach homes in Wildwood, in Atlantic City, that area. Those are the type of people that showed up at that rally. That's why he had such a very large crowd. That's why you had 100,000 people in Wildwood. Even if not all of them were at the rally, a big portion of them were. And this notion that the crowd size thing is just completely fabricated doesn't seem to add up, because even local news media is covering it as such, unless you want to admit that ABC is a, Trump cultist network or something like that, which we know it's not, obviously, but still, they're covering it fairly, which is somewhat surprising. But still, you're seeing the fact that this was not about New Jersey so much as it was about Eastern Pennsylvania. It's two birds with one stone. Trump did it and then some. And he had a very, very successful rally, a lot of good, positive PR as a result. He was on point with his messaging. His messaging was solid, because when you look at what they were trying to critique Donald Trump on, we can go over a list of things that they tried to hit him on. And we have that here. But in terms of the rally, they tried to hit him on the fact that the crowd may not have been as big as he said it was. And it's like, okay, wow, Donald Trump might exaggerate his crowd size. Do people care about that? No. Did he exaggerate it? Probably not, given the fact that the media is corroborating it when they never really would to begin with. Any crowd size where he was right and they were wrong about. So there's that. And also, Trump told a joke about a movie. That's another thing, because Trump was talking about how you have people that are entering this country that happen to be, cannibals from these gangs in, south of the border. They're entering this country, MS-13, among plenty of other gangs. And a lot of these people, not only do they commit murder, they commit gruesome murder, and you have cannibals pouring in. And then Trump made a joke about Silence of the Lambs and what he called the late, great Hannibal Lecter. He was a wonderful guy, but he says it like it's obvious to anybody that has a brain. It's semi-ironic. He's being sarcastic when he says Hannibal Lecter is great or whatever. But honestly, people love the character, though. People love the character. So is that even like a bad thing? Probably not. But they're mad because he told a joke about a movie. I mean, what's the real takeaway is, hey, you have people coming into this country that are doing horrible things, that believe in barbaric things, and we need to shut our border down so these people don't enter our country and then start eating, quote unquote, what he called a friend for dinner. That's it. It's true. We could debate how many of these people are in the country. The bottom line is they exist. They're out there, and he's right about it. They're also mad because apparently Donald Trump mentioned the fact that he's mentioned his golfing buddies who are pro football players. One of them is Lawrence, is it Taylor, the linebacker for the Giants? The other one is O.J. Anderson. And then Trump said O.J., and they're like, Trump is senile. He thinks O.J. Simpson's in the crowd. And it's like, no. And then he brings the guy on stage, and it's O.J. Anderson. And they're grasping at straws. They're pushing lies and posting old pictures from like football tailgates saying, look, Trump supporters, they trashed the beach. They have nothing but bullshit. They have nothing but lies. They can't win on their merit. So they have to come up with this nonsense. But nobody buys it. Who buys the nonsense? Do people still buy this stuff? Because if these are people that are actually really intelligent and intellectual people, and the people of the highly educated, you think they'd be able to come up with actual reasons to support Biden? Instead, all they do is lie. So it kind of proves that, nope, everything over the past 8-9 years, they've been wrong about. The tides are turning. You can feel the tides are turning, and it's not likely enough to save Joe Biden at this point. Regardless of whatever, electoral metrics we can point to, this is more good news for Trump in Pennsylvania. We talk about the fact that Trump just needs Georgia and Pennsylvania, and he's there. I mean, if last night was any indication, I think Pennsylvania is going to be very strong for Trump. I think he's going to get Georgia. I think he's going to get Pennsylvania. It's not necessarily about the crowd size, but it's about how well he's playing the media like a fiddle, how well he put everything out. I'm not the 4D chess believer all the time. I don't believe everything Trump does is always going to be 4D chess. But this was 4D chess because he was able to go out there and hold the rally and do it in a different state, get more publicity, get 100,000 people or whatever, very large record crowd regardless, amount of people into southern New Jersey and in the Philadelphia media market. And he's able to control the narrative once again. And the national news is ignoring it, and the local news is making Trump look good, and that's exactly what matters. That's what dictates this election. Biden had no room for error to begin with. He had no room for error. But still, you talk about even just the basics of Trump having these rallies, which we'll get to this clip as well, and we kind of covered this. But in terms of Trump holding them, it says ushers in an economic boom. So if nobody was there, why is CBS reporting that his rally ushered in an economic boom? Because it did. Donald Trump's support base is arguably stronger than it's ever been. And it's only going to get, louder and stronger as we get closer to the election. Are you kidding me? I mean, we're in May. We got 5 months, almost 6 months to go still before the election. It's true that time is kind of running out, but there's a lot of time for Trump to stay on message like he was and continue and do what he did. He's got higher energy than 2020, despite the fact that that was 4 years ago. He's more reserved than he was in 2016, but it's like in a presidential way, so you can't say it's like a bad thing. Overall, I think this is peak Trump, focuses on the issues, didn't make the entire thing even about the legal drama either. Because there's concerns that, he's just going to run for president and he's going to talk about the 2020 election all the time. And they said he would talk about his legal issues, which he touched on. I'm not saying he didn't touch on the legal stuff, but, he wasn't going on 10, 15, 20-minute tangents about that. He was, sprinkling it a little bit, which he should. I mean, he's on trial. It's been publicity for him. I think he should mention it. And he has been mentioning it, but he's mentioning it the right amount. He's focusing on the issues. He's basically mocking Biden in the most effective way possible. It's humiliating for Biden, and there's no real way they can really retort what Donald Trump is saying. He had the great messaging on the abortion issue. He got out in front of Biden on that issue. He said, we returned the rights back to the states where everybody said it belonged, which is true. Biden said it belonged to the states. Biden said that Roe v. Wade was, back in the 1980s, a case that was not decided constitutionally. But now apparently he wants to codify it. Now apparently Trump is lying because he says that even many Democrats were agreeing that it belonged to the states, which is true. Maybe not now, but back in the day, back when you had Democrats that were somewhat more sane, at least compared to nowadays on the issues, that's what they believed. So all around, he fired on all possible cylinders. There was nothing to dislike about his rally. I think it's probably his best performance I've seen in a very long time, and just one of his best performances of all time in general. And they know it. They know they can't really hit him hard. Like, it's true that it was more of a speech that does have more base appeal, but it struck the balance perfectly. And if that's Trump at his rowdiest, and he's on message, he's witty, he's funny, then it's good. They also are apparently, I think they're mad at Trump, and they're trying to, again, that's all they do. Trump gives a speech for 2 hours, and he has one little tiny slip up that he corrects 2 seconds later. Apparently he's, according to them, more mentally in decline than Biden. He said something about Jimmy Connor, and then he corrected himself, and he's like, Jimmy Carter, and then he was like, well, both of them. Everybody, agrees that Biden is become an awful president, referencing both the former president and the former tennis player, the gaff, whatever. But he combined everything perfectly into, a perfect speech that went on an hour and a half plus, and it worked out well. And the media coverage he got from it was largely positive, and they know there's nothing that they can do. There's nothing that they can do. And I want to play this clip. This is a very left-wing guy, James Carville. He's a Democratic political consultant. He's been a strategist for decades, and he is very upset with the Democrats. And we'll play the clip right here. We could hear what he has to say.
And Trump's more ahead than he's ever been. Fewer people think January 6th was any kind of what it was, as an assault on the temple of democracy, the Constitution. I don't know whatever the fuck you want to say. It's going the wrong way. It's not working. Everything that we're throwing is spaghetti at a wall, and none of it is sticking, me included. And it's hard when you're starting your 80th year, and you like anybody else, I have an opinion of myself, and the opinion I've come to is I don't matter. It doesn't matter. You can prepare, you can be on TV, or you can write pieces, you can have a YouTube channel, you can have a podcast, and nothing. And, we gotta try to think of something different, because what we're doing is really, really not working.
Well, he said it, and it's true. And this is something I've been saying. Democrats thought because they didn't completely collapse in the midterms, like many people, including myself, predicted at the time, that they could do anything, that they could get away with whatever they want. But in reality, presidential years are different, and there's different reasons why Democrats overperformed expectations in the midterms. It's true. A lot of localized races, you talk about candidate campaign quality in some cases. We get that. But in reality, this is a presidential year, and the last 4 years have been awful. The previous 4 years were good. I don't want to hear about COVID because nobody cares about COVID anymore. You can't use that against Trump. People aren't seeing it through that lens. Besides, more people under Biden died of COVID the first year, despite having a vaccine, than in the year of Donald Trump's presidency, the last one. And the economy in many ways has gotten worse than it was during quarantine, during the pandemic. So you can't really use that as an argument either, because at least you could afford stuff. It's true there were lockdowns. A lot of that was localized. A lot of that was governors locking down. Was the wrong move? Absolutely. That's not the point. The point is when people think of Trump's presidency, they're not going to go think about COVID. They're going to think about the economy. Donald Trump did not become president in March of 2020. There were 3.5 years before that. If you're talking about a referendum on the presidencies, obviously Donald Trump's got the upper hand everywhere. He does. There's no other way you can look at it and say that people are better off than they were 4 years ago. Can't say it. It's true that COVID was a thing, but still, you could afford things. We didn't have, in many cases, the border. Even the border crisis was pretty much, the border was a non-issue. It was something off the table. Donald Trump's admitted that. So there's nothing you could really attack Trump on. What the 1-6 stuff is not working. The abortion stuff is not working. It's all bouncing off. People have made up their mind. And it's going to take a lot to get Biden across the finish line. It's going to take a lot. It's true. And that's not to say he can't cross it. But if you are an objective individual right now and you have less than 6 months before the election, which candidate would you rather be? The answer is obvious. It's Trump. I mean, this is Trump's race to lose. Could it be lost? It's possible. But it's going to take a miracle among miracles, even stuff we didn't even see in 2020, to get Biden across the finish line. But I will say this, and this ties into the last thing that we'll talk about before we will get to Super Chats, because we need to cover it, is that we need to get out and vote, because it's true, you have a large crowd size, but how many of those people are going to turn out and vote? How many of those people? Because that's the question. Guarantee you a lot of those people lived in Pennsylvania. Many probably have never voted before. They have to be registered to vote, and it's something that needs to be done. And people love to talk about Scott Pressler. He's one person. You need a lot more than just one person to register hundreds of thousands of voters just to make sure that we can register them and then get these people, more importantly, not just registered, but out to vote. That's kind of something that we need to do. So looking at this, Donald Trump acknowledges this, which, again, Donald Trump was very I wouldn't even say he was anti-early voting. He's more anti-mail-in voting. He still is, which I am, especially with the massive, mail-in systems in some of these states. But in terms of voting, we need to tell people that there's more than one acceptable way to vote. And there is an election season, not an election day. And you might say that, it should be one day. You might say it should be very limited absentee ballots. I'll agree with that for the most part. But so long as we have an election month, we need to take advantage of the whole month and not one day. You don't want any Maricopa County, Arizona. People don't want to stand in the line, especially even Pennsylvania, especially. You don't want these third shift workers to possibly miss out on voting because they're told not to vote by mail, which that's kind of what it comes down to. You need people out and voting. So Trump says this, and he's been saying it for, ever since the midterms. I think that's when a lot of people, started to realize that our approach was not working, even if there are legitimate concerns with this style of voting. It's not going to go away, and we got to win. That's kind of what we have to do. So
if you want to save America, register, get an absentee or mail-in ballot, vote early or vote on election day. It doesn't matter, but whatever you do, you must get out and vote. This year, election season begins on September 16th and goes all the way to November 5th. So it's not like just November 5th.
He's right. It's season, election season. We need people voting, and honestly, it's probably better to vote as early as possible, so they're not going to be finding you at the 11th hour trying to register. Maybe you want to send it in a little bit later. That's fine. Get a mail-in ballot, actually, and drop it off at the polling place. I think that's the best way to do it if there's no in-person election voting. Like, I don't believe there is in Pennsylvania, but at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, I'm going to vote early in person myself. It's my choice, but people, I think in some states, that's what they'd be better off doing. You don't want to mail it in, fine. You don't know what's going to happen. You're right. But you can drop it off at the place. You can get your family ballots potentially if you can legally harvest them. Do it. We need as many people voting, and get your friends out there. Make sure they get ballots. It's just easy. It's not an ideal system. I agree. It's not how it should be. Ideally, it's not how it was, but while it's there, we can get rid of it if we can't win. So take advantage of it. Do what we have to do so they're not going to be what's going to hit them. Obviously. That's the correct takeaway. And then we still need a big showing on election day too. I mean, we just need everybody to vote that possibly can. Get out and vote. That's the only way we can win, regardless of anything else. And that's the only hope that Biden has, is in the mechanics department, not in anything to the merits of his failure joke of an administration, which has been exactly that. It's been a failure. It's been a joke. But we need people out and voting. regardless of whatever you think of the mail-in system. I understand the obvious concerns, but I also think that it's clear that we have no choice but to get out and vote, because we have to win this thing, and we need people in any possible way they can that's easiest for them. I think that's it. Whatever's easiest. Republicans in these states, they focus, and a lot of it are factory workers. They work long shifts. They can vote maybe the weekend before, where they have a day off. Like, that stuff matters. And coordinating with people that you know are going to vote for Trump, it's important. We need this domino effect. Make a plan to vote. Some people still will vote on election day, and that's okay. But that's not really something that everyone needs to do. We can't be so averse to the early vote. Republicans are not averse to the early vote in Florida or Texas or some of these other states, and they're getting record numbers. They're turning the corner in Texas. I think part of it is because of that. Even though the abortion issue, Texas is actually, it's banned with few exceptions completely. But even then, Greg Abbott won by 11 points against an opponent that is a joke, but was well-funded and, came close to winning in the 2018 Senate race. So either way, I think that overall we need to be making a plan to get out and vote early if possible, ideally, and let them find other people later. So that's my take on it. It is far from a done deal, but there's a lot to get to, including Super Chats. And it is my birthday, which I think we've gotten a lot of, yesterday was my birthday, but we've gotten a lot of birthday Super Chats. We'll be getting to all of those as well. But we already have quite a bit. Johnny Heartdog for 10 says, I left some Super Chats on Tuesday stream hoping to watch it later, but it's not up on it is up on the channel. And it's up in the unlisted playlist, or it's up in the playlist unlisted, the rep archive playlist on the playlist page. So it is up. But to answer the 3 questions again, which you didn't have to, send all that in, but I'll answer them again because you sent them. If Trump goes to jail, will his life be in danger? I think he's probably going to be in a very secluded part of the prison, like a lot of other high-profile people are if he goes, but I don't believe he's going to go. Number 2, many conservatives have Nebraska's second flipping. Do you think it will? Well, a liberal pollster has it flipping, actually. I don't know if it's going to flip, but he's got a shot. He does. If he's really doing that well nationally, yeah, he's got a shot. Republicans in 2022 did well in the district enough to take it in every race, but, midterm years are not presidential years, and Trump is a unique phenomenon. But it is true, if the third-party vote share is high enough, I think Trump very well could take that district, but I'd like to see more polling before I really move it into Trump's column. Also, don't do, as for clickbait videos, I don't do clickbait videos very often. How well do I vet my sources? I vet them well. I don't really post things that just people tweet out without evidence. But we covered that in the last show. Tucson PaleoCon for $50 says, happy birthday, Rep. Can't stick around because I'm going to dinner with my family for Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the beautiful moms out there. We love our moms. Well, thank you, Tucson PaleoCon, for the 50. Appreciate it. The Voices says Ashley Biden's diary's been authenticated. It already was. And when they say authenticated, that just means that they're admitting it's real. New York Times already did that. She did it. So she admitted it was true. Okay, we know. It's basically telling. Yeah, she's admitting that Biden had inappropriate showers with her when she was 12. This isn't a joke. This isn't some made-up story. This is something that his daughter is now admitting to. So I don't want to hear about, Trump's personality, this, that, and the other thing. I don't think Trump is showering with 12-year-old daughter. That's creepy. It's not something that should be overlooked. But in 2020, it was overlooked because it was censored and it was Russian disinformation. Remember, Biden said the laptop was Russian disinformation that was crafted by Rudy Giuliani, when in reality it was true. It is very weird that the computer repair shop that Hunter Biden just left a laptop from hell at was at a shop that was owned by a friend of Rudy Giuliani's. But if anything, it shows just how much of an idiot Hunter Biden is. So you can't even say that that's like a potential knock on the authenticity of the story. Everything they said wasn't true is 100% true now. And that's why I think Trump is in such a good position. Also, Salt A says, hey, Rep, Trump needs to do a rally in the South Bronx. Happy birthday as well. I don't know how the South Bronx is going to go. I don't know what locations they have there. You still want it to be in a safe area for sure. No says, hey, Rep, have you heard that Vivek will be debating the Libertarian Party's VP candidate at their convention? Trump and RFK are there. I've heard all of that. And honestly, it's not too surprising. Vivek and Trump and Trump is somebody who's going to be going. I think it's kind of surprising Trump's attending the Libertarian Convention, but they don't really have a real candidate this cycle. So trying to go there, it helps out, like, in terms of the party. They'll kind of view Trump as, like, doing them a solid, and he might get some more of their votes because of it. So I can't exactly say it's a bad thing. And in terms of Vivek debating, I don't know. I guess he's just looking for another debate performance. He did very well up against Nikki Haley and all these other clowns on that GOP primary debate stage. The Iranian Putin for 2 says, happy birthday, sir. Well, thank you. Tommy Hui, thank you for the 20. Cool Roy says, FJB and Karl Marx. Austin Lewis says, what's your opinions on David Pakman, Brian Tyler Cohen, and Midas News? I think they're biased POSs making money off Trump's name. Exactly. That's all they are. All they do is lie. The guy's show, the second guy, Brian Tyler Cohen, his show is called No Lie, but it's just an entire lie is the entire existence of his show. So all they do is take Trump out of context. It's so blatant at this point. They're not even trying to at least try to somewhat make it objective. They just blatantly clip Trump saying something, and then they tweet it out, and then they create their outrage farm. That's what they do. They're very miserable human beings. They should be honestly ashamed of themselves and what they do for a living, because it's such dumb, low IQ work that is just blatantly based on lies. So what can I say? Kyle Beckman, thank you for the 2. Cool Blue 71 says, partly how Trump wins the popular vote state after state. You see the Democrat margins decline in most populous cities and counties. Yeah, it's possible. Like I said, it's a turnout game. We're probably going to have lower turnout this cycle. The question is, which side will see more turnout drop? The answer is clear. It's probably going to be the man who has lost so much popularity, right? It would be Biden. Wouldn't be Trump. It'd be the one that's actually lost popularity. Only one of those two has lost popularity since 2020. Trump's been pretty stagnant. Biden has fell off a cliff when he had no margin for error to begin with. So that's it. Kyle Beckman says, Wildwood spokesperson told AP 80 to 100,000 at the rally. That is huge. Oppie for 10 says, happy birthday. Well, thank you. President Biden says, when is the Madison Square Garden rally? I have no idea. That's up to Trump. I think it could happen, but it's up to Trump to make it happen. I'm proud of you for 12 says, happy late birthday. Do you think Trump should be more concerned with the national debt as an issue because we are closer to defaulting because of the reckless spending? Well, we got to cut back spending and we got to cut waste. And we didn't do a lot of that in Trump's first term. But I'm hoping that the Congress dynamic is going to be a little bit better than it was under Paul Ryan, to the point where we're actually going to be able to cut wasteful, useless spending. Personally, I don't think the debt's going to get solved under Trump. I'm not going to sit here and try to claim it is, because I think that's an issue that's still going to be pressing. But if we could kind of slow it down a little bit, that'd be good. Riley Moore says, happy birthday, Red. Imagine if Trump flips New Jersey red. I can imagine, but I don't think it's likely going to happen. I don't think this was about New Jersey. I think this was about Pennsylvania. I think this was about kind of just making it a national spectacle and drawing a ridiculously large crowd, and that's exactly what he did. He did it perfectly. So good for him. Shout out to James Adams for becoming a member. 9-inch Pincher for 5 says, one of the many reasons I'm voting to protect my brother, who is currently stationed in Grafenwar. We will get into another conflict if Biden wins. Exactly. He's dumb. He doesn't know what he's doing. You can't really make the case that he's somebody who is effectively engaging in diplomacy that keeps the world in a more peaceful state. He's done exactly the opposite. He's dumb. They know he's dumb. That's why you see all these conflicts arising that you wouldn't see under Trump, because the world was more stable. And people know it. And people see what's going on now. They see what's going on in the Middle East with October 7th and the Israel-Palestine conflict. You see the Russian invasion of Ukraine, that war over there. We're basically throwing a bunch of money at Ukraine. They're still not going to win. It's like you need to make a deal. You got to get things done. You need people to stop dying across the world. We need to keep, certain leaders at bay. If anything, we want to keep our country safe, and we need diplomacy that's able to go out there and do it, not just blank checks to foreign nations that just take away from the American people and just ruin our standing in the world stage, make us the doormat and dumping ground for the rest of the world's problems. We need America first leadership, not leadership that kowtows to the globalist establishment. So let's see. Austin Lewis says, if you had to give a yes or no answer, would you say yes, Trump wins this November, or no? I would say yes. If I had to, he's the favorite. I don't think it's necessarily a guarantee, but it definitely is something that is very likely to happen at this point, at this stage in the game. President Biden says, Sleepy Creepy Joe will be lucky to get 70 million votes. Yeah, probably. I think the popular vote's going to be around there for both candidates. I think that Trump is probably going to have the, edge right now. Timbo Slice for 10 says, Merry birthday, Rep. Coworker and I were talking about the possibility of Trump flipping our state of New Jersey. It is entirely possible. The only blue counties in New Jersey follow the turnpike from Philly to New York. Well, you have to see pretty big shifts right in places like Newark for it to happen, up in the New York metro, very suburban counties. It's not really been Trump's strong suit, but at the end of the day, Biden is so unpopular that some of these areas that were thought to be moving left or not in play have come back in play. So there's that. James Adams for 10 says, happy birthday. Keep up your great work in bringing truth to voters. Well, thank you, and thanks to everybody for the birthday wishes as well. I'm sure we're going to get some more as well, but it's true. I started this channel when I was 18, technically. I'm now 24, so that's a big shift. Base Cat says, you hear Target is canceling their Pride Month. I didn't hear about that, but I know they did something last year to kind of slowly phase certain things out, and it just shows the tides are turning. What's going on? Even you watch CNN. I'm not going to say they're not biased or that they're still not deranged in many fronts, but they're more somber. They're more willing to admit that Democrats are overplaying their hand and that the Trump charges are political theater. They know it. Maybe it's because some of them secretly want Trump back in the White House because they know that their ratings are going to go up. I don't know exactly what it is, but something's going on. And it feels like the tides have turned completely on their heads. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm delusional. Maybe I'm reading the room wrong. I'm not saying that they still don't have their moments, but I'm saying something is changing. Culturally, there is some turn of the tide. This is not what it used to be. This is not what it used to be. Maybe this is all a psyop for something. I don't know. You tell me, but I don't know. Cyrus Jalali says, Trump's Stormy trial ends this Friday with verdict expected on... Was that true? I didn't hear it was going to end that quickly, but what will happen if guilty? Well, that's up to the judge. The judge has basically said that he's not wanting to put Trump in jail, or he doesn't want to see that happen optically. But again, the judge is biased against Trump, and that we know. But it is true that even they can at least try to maintain the aura of, oh, well, if we just give him probation and make him pay a huge fine or whatever, that we can make it look like we're not biased. We're keeping him on the campaign trail. But in reality, I think a lot of that also is because they don't really want to overplay their hand any more than they already have, because I think they realize that it's nonsense. But either way, they can't beat Trump. They can't beat Trump in terms of the merits of the country and the state that it's in right now. They can't beat him. Let's see. The Dragon Report says, fun fact, Trump broke the streak of Isabella County being the bellwether for Michigan in 2020. Well, it's a red trending county. Bellwethers don't exist anymore. They don't. Trump could lose in a landslide and he'll win the bellwethers because they have such a very high white working class population that used to be more swingy in a lot of areas, like Vigo County, for example, in Indiana. That used to be the bellwether, but it's a safe ride county. It's always going to be a safe ride county right now. So I can't exactly say that there is a bellwether county right now, or a bellwether area, bellwether state. I mean, they're always changing given trends and other things like that. So it comes down to that. But yeah, I mean, the whole bellwether thing, that used to be a big deal. That used to be like 2012, they'd be focusing in on these counties, Vigo County, Indiana. That was like the big one. Obama barely won it in 2012. Like, it already was moving right. And even if Romney won it, he still would have lost the election. So these bellwether counties, they're not, I mean, maybe you could say Erie and Pennsylvania, but even then, I'm not even entirely sure it's always going to be a good indicator, because even Republicans in the state Supreme Court election last year, they won Erie County, but they lost statewide by 6. So maybe you could say because it's a statewide race, it'd be different. But either way, I don't think you could say there's exactly a bellwether. What I like to do is compare every county, especially the counties of consequence, to 2020. See where Donald Trump is improving. And I think on election night, we're going to get a decent picture of that probably within the first couple hours. Now, Florida used to be that bellwether, but now it's like, I know what's going to happen. Election night, Florida and Texas are going to come in, and they're going to come in very, very Republican friendly. And, you know, some people are going to be like, it's over. It's like, no, I'm not saying he's not going to win. I'm just saying hold your horses, because we know that these states are expected to, you know, shift in that direction. Maybe Texas a little bit less so than Florida, but I can't see Texas, given the way the polls are right now, at least not moving right by a little bit. I think worst case for Trump, he'd win it by around like 6, because the state, they act like trends are always going to continue. Oh, this state shifted to the left by 3 points. It has to do it again this cycle. It's like, no. And also growth in a lot of these places is slowing down, like the Atlanta metro. I'm not saying it's not growing, but people have not been moving a lot under Biden. And that is potentially going to lead to his downfall, because, you know, you talk about some of these trends. He was being helped by trends in some places. But if he's getting less popular, but people aren't moving to the certain states he needs to win, it's not going to end too well. So Austin Lewis says, do you think RNC, Lara and Whatley operation will cause us to outdo Dems in early voting? I don't know if it's going to cause us to outdo them. I'm just saying we have to have more people voting early. We don't have to cook the pot to the point where we don't have enough people turning out on election day. But I'm just saying if they could be more competitive with Democrats in early voting, that'd be good. Super Slob says, happy birthday. Thank you. Are you a groiper? No, I am not. LynRX52 for $50 says, happy birthday. Keep up the good old work. It's much appreciated. Prosecution said it would be done this week, but then defense gets their turn, right? Well, I mean, how is the trial exactly set up? I feel like there's had to have been some cross-examinations, right? I mean, maybe the prosecution is done this week in terms of them going out there, or all arguments going to end this week, because that's definitely a very big question that needs to be answered. Austin Lewis says, do you think there will be Republican presidents in the future? Yeah, at some point. Like, even if Republicans enter like this electoral winter or whatever, which it's possible, especially if Trump doesn't win and then you have the amnesty, the Republican Party will always exist. It's just going to have to be a liberal perversion of whatever it is now. It's not going to be the Republican Party that we know, which is the problem, but still. But that's it for Super Chats for now. You guys can continue to send in. We're not going to end the stream now. We're only 50 minutes in. We got 1,500 people in chat. Like the stream down below. Like the stream. And we will go from there. But it is true. We have to, focus. This is crunch time. We can't say, oh, it's everything is going to be great. We think that it can be great, but we need to make sure that we make this happen, because if we don't win this thing, it's not going to end too well. And we need to make sure that we can go out there get this election done, and go from there. I mean, that's a battle. That is the battle. The battle needs to be won, but the fight is far more than just the battle in and of itself. Nick Felsted for 10 says, happy birthday. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat. But yeah, defense is going to call witnesses. Yeah, they're going to have Michael Cohen take the stand. I know that very shortly here, which that's going to be hilarious. And Democrats are celebrating that. But it's like, this is a guy who has consistently been under fire. He's been arrested for perjury. Like, basically every witness that the prosecution has interviewed has thrown the guy under the bus. Like, they think this guy is going to save the prosecution. I mean, honestly, in theory, no. I mean, in theory, the trial's over. Trump won, but it's a biased jury. It's a biased judge. We know this is not a fair trial. He could not get a fair trial in New York City, even if New York City is moving to the right. These people chosen by the judge are people who tend to lean left, get their news from left-leaning sources. Do I think a hung jury could very well possibly happen? Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very possible. You have 12 jurors, and the case is so weak that it only takes one to stand up and say, you know what, this trial is nonsense, and I think you might see that, and he might walk away from that. But yeah, Michael Cohen is a disaster. If they're really going to have him take the stand, that's pretty funny. But I can't really point to any data point that would point to there being proof that I've seen of a crime. It's a joke. It's literally a joke. Like, what proof have we seen? What crime was Trump covering up? Because that's where the felony comes in. Because if Trump paid for this, which apparently he didn't pay directly, it seems, he probably paid out of pocket. They did catch and kill stories. And it's like, okay, well, at that point, where's the proof that it was from the campaign? I haven't found that yet. There's no evidence. And where is the crime they're covering up? Because the so-called affair is not a crime, from what we understand. And the people involved have flip-flopped so much on if it happened or if it didn't happen that it's honestly pointless. And we've seen that. So yeah, even their whole ambush strategy, it's not really working out too well in objective reality. They know that, but we know that this is a trial that is a sham. From the get-go, it's a sham. So you can't, fully say that Trump is going to walk, but you can't say at the end of the day that there's not a chance he does walk either, because yeah, it takes one juror to hang the jury. And I know that there's people who will vote against Trump no matter what on the jury, but it's just so weak. It's so weak. Who knows what's going to happen? Mitchell Ryan says, if they convict Trump, do you think he will win it on appeal? Also, happy birthday. Well, thank you. And I think he would win it on appeal, but is he going to get that appeal done before the election? Probably not. We'll see. And that's another trial that he would still have to go through. He may not want to do it until after the election anyways. So it could take a very, very long time for them to fully finalize some sort of appeal process and get that going. So yeah, it's just a bunch of nonsense. But you look at how the Democrats are melting down right now, and they're in utter shambles. They know that they've overplayed their hand so much. But like I said, it needs to come down to turnout, because we have all the votes we need. Trump said it. They took that out of context too, but it's true. They have all the votes they need, technically. There's a lot of people in this country that are very unintelligent individuals that are NPCs. But there are more of us than there are of them. It's not even close, but we need to get out and vote. That's how we win. So, and that's another thing. A lot of people are talking about the VP pick, and I'm shocked we've seen no super chats about the VP pick. That's probably a new record in a very long time, going 54 minutes without a super chat about the VP. But Trump did have Doug Burgum speak before he did at his rally. Is he testing the waters? He did mention something about he'll be working with us for a very long time. He said, he hinted at something that he'd be around longer. He said something like that at his rally while he was mentioning him. He didn't get a very, resounding applause after he said that. But yeah, I don't know if he's going to be the pick. I know Trump is testing the waters. but I don't think he's necessarily going to be the pick. And there are a lot of legitimate criticisms about Burgum that people really aren't mentioning. Like, look at the guy's past history with the big tech stuff that he's promoted. As governor of North Dakota, fought with a bunch of rhinos in the state legislature, or he fought a bunch of actual conservatives in the state legislature because they were not being rhinos. There are actual legitimate criticisms that people gloss over because they just don't know enough about the guy. But I don't know if he's going to be picked. I'm pretty sure he'll be somewhere in the cabinet because he'll be out of office. Trump wants him somewhere because he does bring a lot of money to the table. He brings a lot of donors to the table. I don't know, but we'll see. Magna Defender 98 for 10 says, why can't the MSM drop the coup if it's a dead horse, but the journalists can't take the L? Sub IQ people think they could reinstate mandates without issue. In reality, it's an indirect win for Trump. I haven't heard anything about that. I mean, they haven't been talking about it because they know it's a losing issue for them. And that's why the 2021 elections, in part, did so poorly for a lot of Democrats, is because that was a key issue, but it kind of faded away in 2022, and that's why you saw people like Gretchen Whitmer start to win by, typical incumbent governor margins of victory. Dave M for 10 says the Dems want to slow Trump down and label him a convicted criminal. An appeal will take years. I saw your video, didn't know Tim Scott might be gay. Well, it's true. And honestly, even if he's not, it's still a distraction because these things are just memes. You want somebody who's not going to bring a lot of controversy to the table because it's distracting. Donald Trump is the agent of chaos, and it's a good thing. He's the agent of controversy, but he can pull it off. These other people get hit where it hurts. They get made fun of. They don't know how to respond well. Tim Scott is probably the worst VP choice that people are floating that's like on Trump's shortlist, allegedly, even if he still is on Trump's shortlist. Like, there's no possible reason that people could actually make the case for Tim Scott being a strong choice. He's not. There's nothing he adds to the ticket. He's very liberal on certain social issues like crime. He's rejected Trump justices because he thought they were not racially sensitive enough, per his own words. So Tim Scott, is he the guy? I feel like he's somebody who's already, even though he was not a part of Trump's administration directly, he still worked to subvert a lot of Trump's agenda regarding crime. We cannot have that. We cannot have that at all. We need somebody who's going to be, they're not going to be perfect. There's not a perfect choice with a perfect history. I get that. But it needs to be somebody who can help Trump win and not get in his way. And those are the two criteria that I've stated, and that's also the two criteria that I believe in. I'm not sure that Burgum helps Trump win. I don't know if he'd get in his way, but there are question marks. We've been over this. Some people say Tulsi, that's a very, very high gamble, but it could pay off. It could pay off. Who knows? Andrew Broadwater says, happy birthday, voted early in Maryland, Trump 2024. I mean, there's the primary this week, and thank you for the birthday wishes, and thanks everybody who super chatted and everybody else in chat for the birthday wishes. But in reality, we're going to be streaming on Tuesday. Maryland, I believe, New Jersey, and I think there's another state that's going to be doing their primary. So we'll see. We got to wait and for the people that are going to watch the results, they're going to be upset. Oh, Trump's not getting 99% in these primaries. It's over, they'll claim, but in reality, they just don't know how primaries tend to work. And that's okay, because they're not the ones that are going to really be able to impact the election. Whining and concern trolling, it only gets people so far. It's not going to throw the election into the wrong hands. It's not. And that much is true, and that's a good thing that it's true. So, New Jersey will be interesting. After the rally, if Trump sees a surge in that part of New Jersey in turnout, well, we know why. Honestly, the number one argument in favor of Tulsi Gabbard as Trump's running mate is because she would just destroy Kamala Harris again. That would be pretty funny. But in reality, she does have baggage because she was a Democrat until 2 years ago. And that's something that might not sit well with people. And a lot of people, does she have independent appeal? Does she really? I mean, what independent appeal does she have? She was able to get like 1% in the primary. Even these open primaries, she wasn't really inspiring a lot of people to turn out and vote for her. I tend to think that she seems like a decent person. She seems like she has very good foreign policy. I don't believe she would, if she had to govern, I don't believe she'd govern like a Democrat because she has this beef and war with the DNC. But I mean, Tulsi in and of itself, it's a little bit of a wild card, too much of a wild card. Zachary Gioilo, or I'm probably butchering that, Zachary G, says, what are your thoughts of Trump going to speak at the Libertarian Convention on May 25th? Good. I mean, he is going to speak to people who are usually not really fond of Republican candidates because they vote against them. But at the end of the day, they don't have a strong candidate that's running. And Trump might be able to make his case, extend the olive branch to some of these people, and maybe he'll get their votes. So I think it's smart. I don't know what he's going to go out there and say, but I think the fact that a major presidential candidate that actually has a shot and is the favorite to be president is going to their convention, buttering them up is definitely going to help out a little bit, you would think, because they usually get ignored, but they're not getting ignored. Samuel Harrison says thoughts on Joe Rogan. I mean, he's not like an actual conservative, but in terms of media, a lot of people like him. I don't really watch him all that often at all, besides maybe some occasional clips or whatever. But I mean, I don't have too much against him. He's not really a conservative, but he has a large following and is like, I guess, kind of endorsed Trump. So there's that. Mike Luca for 10 says, Doug is the man, good on energy and business, at least knows tech. Know thy devil. Happy birthday. Well, thank you. But I don't know if it's a know thy, it's like the devil you know versus the devil you don't know type of ordeal. This guy, if anything, could be the devil you don't know because he is, like you said, he knows tech, but that comes with drawbacks. He's supported several iffy things. I could pull up the list, at least on my end, and see. There was a tweet today that kind of aggregated it because he heavily promoted a tracking app for North Dakotans with COVID. Is that something that really is something that is a good sign for his presence in tech? Because if you talk about somebody who knows the tech world, you could talk about somebody like a J.D. Vance or a Blake Masters because they worked in the tech field, but they worked as people who were conservative, who were Republican. They oppose big tech. Doug Burgum is not really a member of any sort of political office that has stood for anything except for sucking up to big tech and sucking up to the Democrat governor of Minnesota, who he's like best friends with, and Tim Walz, who is, he's a liberal. He let the city of Minneapolis burn to the ground without lifting a finger. There was that. So, yeah, I mean, he's also in favor of placing a Chinese-owned corn plant 12 miles away from an Air Force base. And in terms of his electability or strengths, he was never endorsed by the state convention, despite being a sitting governor, which is a red flag because the state convention is somewhat more conservative. And on top of that, he didn't even come in the top 4 places in the first primary in terms of the convention, it seems, or one of the voting processes that they went about. So I think it's a little shady. He does know energy, Secretary of Energy. Yeah, I mean, he's like a cabinet guy. He's a cabinet guy. I don't know if he's VP material. I don't know who the VP is going to be. It's not going to be somebody everyone's in love with regardless. If he picks Burgum, he picks Burgum. I don't think it's going to sink his campaign in and of itself, but I don't think it's going to give him a boost. And even though Trump's in a good position, I think he needs to do something that will give him a boost and bring something to the ticket. You're usually supposed to add voters. You talk about Mike Pence. His role was to get on board a lot of those evangelicals and other, conservatives, longtime Republicans who did not like Donald Trump's personality. They did not like his tone. They were unsure about how he would govern, and Trump made that pick. It helped him. Whether Pence was good at the end or not is irrelevant. So Trump needs somebody who will add something to the ticket, help him with a key group or help him with some issues or whatever, at least get more people on board. Maybe the people who are actual Republicans but voted against him in the primary for one reason or another on board. Maybe somebody who's a little bit younger, fresh face. Doesn't have to be a successor, obviously, we know that, but I don't know who it's going to be. But somebody that can add voters to the ticket in some way or another. That's what he needs to do, and I don't think Burgum fits that bill. I don't think he loses Trump voters, but when it comes down to gaining voters, that's a little iffy. But again, I think Tulsi is somebody who's a big gamble. And that's why I think that you can make the case for Rubio, despite him having a rhino past 8 to 10 years ago. You have other rhinos that are currently rhinos or actually work to subvert Trump's agenda, like Tim Scott, or people that are big tech oligarchs with major red flags like Burgum. So there's that. Dave M says Rubio's come a long way and would be someone that could help bring independents, Hispanics, and women. Well, I think that does kind of agree with my point there. I think you can make the case. Does that mean I want him in 2028? No. Does that mean I like everything he's ever done? No. Does it mean that he's going to subvert Trump's agenda, though, because of things he believed 10 years ago? I don't believe so. He's somebody that I think is like docile in a way. He blows the way the wind does, which you could say is a negative thing for being at the top of the ticket. But if he's somebody that can kind of just ride the wave and possibly bring in more like Hispanics or whatever, then yeah. Women tend to like him. They voted for him in the 2016 primary by a decent margin in certain places. He can talk in a way that can appeal to independents. The way he talks, that's the way I see it. So that's it. I mean, I don't think he'd be as based as somebody like a J.D. Vance or as weak and subversive as somebody like a Nikki Haley. Also, like in terms of Zeldin, I don't think he's on the list because people are mentioning Zeldin as well. I mentioned Zeldin months ago, and I said even back last year when he endorsed Trump, I said he's going to be on the short list. It seems like he probably is somewhere, but he's not near the top, and that kind of tells me that he's a surrogate possibly for Trump, but he's not going to be somebody who is going to be on Trump's ticket. Maybe somewhere in the cabinet. I don't even know what would be a good fit for him though. Noah Boyd for 10 says, happy birthday, Rep. If you could have any role in the Trump administration, what would it be? Probably chief of staff, because you get to be the guy's best friend and defender and be like that lead advisor. And that's another thing that people don't get about the VP. They want the VP to be somebody who is really based on the issues or more right-wing than Trump even in some cases. And that's not something that I feel like is going to win Trump the election. Could be a liability, but they're also a role that doesn't do much. They don't do very much. They break ties in the Senate. I don't think we're going to have a split Senate. They are a ceremonial position. They don't really advise Trump a whole lot anyways. So when you look at the big picture of the VP and the role the VP's in, it's ceremonial. They need to help Trump win. It's about optics. But past that point, they're just there. They're not even like the head guy of the other people. They have less pull than advisors that you probably have never heard of. And those are the people that really held back Trump's first term. That's where we need to staff his administration with people that actually understand the problem solving this country and aren't stuck in the 1980s. In terms of the VP doesn't do much. The VP is largely irrelevant. You need somebody who isn't fully off-putting to the point where they sink the entire ticket, but we need somebody who, is going to be going out there and basically helping him cross the finish line, is able to beat Kamala Harris in a debate, which is not a very high bar, But I mean, like, the problem with somebody like a Ben Carson that gets thrown around is he is loyal. I think he'd be good in the role ceremonially, but he didn't do very well on the debate stage in 2016. Part of it is not his fault. He's not stupid, but he's somebody who is too soft-spoken, and if he is hit, the attacks landed from a lot of people back in 2016 on that debate stage, and even in some of these hearings that he had to do when he was HUD secretary, he kind of tripped over himself a few times, and also he's not really much younger than Trump. So even being ceremonial, you need to put a little bit of balance on the ticket. Philip Garcia says, call me a biased New Yorker, but I think Zeldin's the best pick. I think he's up there. I think he is. But in terms of him being on the final shortlist, I don't know how high up he is. If he picks him, fine. Great, actually. But I don't think it's going to be that. And it's not going to be Vivek either. Because Vivek is somebody who is too similar to Trump. You don't want two people that are that similar, have the same personality in many fronts, on the same ticket. You have two alphas. They're going to butt heads. It's not something that is entirely going to be great for Trump. And there's a little tension that will build up behind the scenes. Now, do I think he'll be in the cabinet somewhere? Yeah, I think so. I think he'd be a good advisor. I don't think that as the, main guy, I don't think he's the VP. VP is somebody like I said, like a Zeldin or a Rubio or somebody along those lines. The question is, who's it going to be? It's up to Trump. I'm not the one making the decision, so don't get mad at me for floating names around. We can debate that all we want, but it's up to Trump to go out there and essentially lay down the best possible option, make the ticket the best possible ticket so he can go out there, carry the momentum he already has into the convention, into the final stretch against Biden. Because keep in mind, the RNC is in July. You talk about early voting. It starts in like 4 months and a few days. That's huge. We need to make sure people get out there and vote above all else, or we're not going to have a country anymore. We need our country. Eunice Ikemoto for $50. Thank you, Eunice. You appreciate the super chat. Got a lot of them tonight, but those are the super chats that keep the lights on. I think that's the largest one tonight. The others were $49.99. So there you go, Eunice. You win so far. But we'll see. We'll see. I just don't know what Trump is really going to think about when he's choosing the criteria. But I think it's going to be more like what I'm saying, where he's going to pick somebody that is not going to hold his ticket back electorally. It's going to advance it, but not hold his administration back. And it's not going to be somebody like a Nikki Haley or Subversive. And that's really where we need to weigh things. That's why, I've been so defensive of Rubio, despite, critiquing him in the past for certain things, which he deserved to be critiqued about. But he is somebody who I think can get Trump across the finish line, electorally speaking. But again, the residency thing is there. Is he going to change his residency? It seems like he could. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't know. Everybody claims they know, but they don't know. There's a lot of head faking and trolling coming out of the Trump inner circle, I'm sure. It could be Byron Donalds, another Floridian. He'd be good. I love Byron Donalds. He would be a very good defender of Trump, and he would eviscerate Kamala. It'd be perfect. It would be perfect. He'd do well. And that's the takeaway. For the people that think, oh, Tim Scott's going to get the black vote. No, he's not. He's going to get Trump 0.0. He might actually hurt, if anything, because Tim Scott is not well liked in the black community. Trump is far more popular. But I think in terms of a black VP, of all the choices, Carson, you hear Scott, you hear Donalds. Donalds is by far the best of the three. But I don't think Trump needs to select somebody based off of racial identity. If he does that, he's going to be, that's something that Democrats do. Kamala was picked because she was a quote-unquote woman of color or whatever. That's what they say. That's why she was picked. And Democrats, it appeals to them. Oh, diversity. Republicans, on the other hand, they don't vote based off of that. They vote based off of merits. Now, it is true that somebody like a Rubio would have Hispanic appeal, but it's not because he happens to be Hispanic. In fact, he's Cuban, but I still think he has appeal to Mexican voters. He can speak to these people. He can speak Spanish. He grew up in that way. Whereas Tim Scott just doesn't resonate. And Hispanics are more malleable as a voting bloc anyways. Let's see. SethX132 says, thanks for having such honest takes. Let's go, Brandon, Texas District 23. Yep. I hope he wins. I haven't heard any news, haven't seen any polls, but I really hope he can go out there later this month, and we can also hopefully get rid of the biggest rhino in Texas and Dade Phelan as well, who is in a runoff with an actual conservative. And you take that guy out of there, Texas is going to get a whole lot redder because he's somebody who is the biggest rhino. He has Democrats heading committees in a Republican House. They impeached Ken Paxton over, again, nothing, something that was already investigated for a long time, something that the voters knew about and decided to reelect him based off of that fact. So that's what it comes down to. Mike Luca for 50, another 50. Says 2016 vibes, a sign at Trump Wildwood rally read, we miss Trump's grocery bills. That's just sad, legit third world issues. No, it's true. We are a third world country. You don't have a border. You can't afford anything. And the regime persecutes its political opponents. That's what we live in, under a senile dictator. Senile dictator. They say Trump's going to be a dictator, but Trump, as president, we need him to be a strong leader to reverse this nonsense, first of all. Second of all, it's just irony. They don't see it because, they can't see it. They wouldn't be able to give up power. They have to accuse people of what they're exactly doing just so they can fearmonger people. But it's not working. And they know it's not working. The 1-6 stuff, it's bouncing off. Like, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? Maybe it's they'll find a way. They'll really try to get people to turn out and vote. They'll use the money for technology and things like that, but it's just hard to see them winning at this point. It's not to tell people to get complacent, but I've at this point, maybe a week ago it was 60%. Now it's like probably 70. Maybe it will go back to 60 in a week or so, because that's how these things work. But we'll see. All right, more super chats. Let's see. Secession Now says, Rubio's a rhino. Why are you pushing Rubio? He might as well pick Pence again. Well, the difference is that Rubio's actually improved over the past 8 years. You can't look at his record and deny it. You see a Numbers USA grade on immigration go from an F to an A+. Yes, do I believe he blows the way the wind does? Absolutely. Do I think for the VP role that's a bad thing necessarily? No, it's not, because it kind of shows that you're just loyal to whatever the status quo is. And if Donald Trump is the status quo, he's not going to get in his way. So there's that. You want to tell me a better VP pick that's on the realistic shortlist? Keep that in mind. Realistic shortlist. Tell me a better VP pick. I'll hear you out. But don't act like I'm in bad faith for pushing for who I believe to be the least weak option that fits my two criteria, which are exactly the two criteria that any presidential candidate is going to need while selecting a VP. That's it. Because unless you tell me a better name, tell me why you feel as if he's going to really subvert Trump's agenda, VP's not that relevant. He could pick Pence again. It wouldn't obviously be the worst possible thing because he'd be top dog. But I don't want him to pick Pence because Pence has definitely evolved the other way. That's kind of what it comes down to. Pence has devolved. Maybe he was obviously always a neocon, but he at least tried to hide it. Whereas he's just now saying that what matters in our own country doesn't matter. He's stuck in the 1980s. Those are the problems with Pence. Whereas Rubio endorses Trump over DeSantis and all these other clowns, said we needed to unite the party fairly early, and is somebody whose voting record has substantially improved. So they're two different animals. You can't say they're the same. This is not 2016. Is he perfect? No, of course not. I think in terms of his old immigration positions, that would be a that would disqualify him in my book alone. But if he hasn't voted against amnesty countless times since then, you could make that argument, but he has. So that's the takeaway. Dave M for 40 says, happy birthday. Phelan won't be speaker for sure. Well, I really hope. He does have a lot of money, but they are actually spending a lot against him too. So Jared the American says, unpopular opinion, but Trump Abbott, happy birthday. Well, I don't think it's really the best option. You're taking a governor in Texas that's actually starting to do his job, kind of, and you'd be taking him and making him VP. This is, again, the problem. VP is not a role that is relevant. It is not a role that is all that relevant. There's a reason why Ron DeSantis is, despite being an office climber his entire career, runs for president while he thought he had a shot, got embarrassed, is not wanting to be Trump's VP. It's because he knows that it's kind of a backbenching position. And that's what it is. It is a position that is very ceremonial. It is one of the most overrated positions in politics, and there's nothing else to it. So, again, taking certain people that are too similar to Trump and putting them in there, not a good idea, in my opinion, because A, maybe it's a ticket liability, but B, just being the VP doesn't really, I think it improves your chances to carry the torch by around 20% in the primary, and that could fade away at an instant. So look at that, weigh the pros, weigh the cons of the VP. That's the way it is. So in terms of Greg Abbott, he's not really all that good on the issues. And again, just because you're a good governor does not make you a good presidential material or a good representative or a good senator, because the national issues and state issues are different. This is what I warn people about in regards to Ron DeSantis. I was proven a little bit more than 100% correct, but yeah, no. A lot of people are going to complain about the VP. It could be Rubio, people are going to be upset. It could be Tim Scott, people are going to be upset. It could be Doug Burgum, people are going to be upset. It could be Vivek, people would be upset. I mean, there's not a single contingency at this point that's not going to be outraged by his VP pick. Every single person he could choose is going to make people whine for a day, and they're still going to vote for Trump. Nikki Haley is a little bit of a little different because she's an active rhino. She's not even endorsing Trump right now. That's part of the reason why she's not in consideration. She never was in consideration, but still. She probably will endorse Trump to save her own career. And, will be a very tepid endorsement. It's not going to be a, enthusiastic one, but we'll take it. We'll take any endorsement. Any person that endorses Trump is a positive at this point. We need to win this election. Any person that endorses, then it helps. Obviously, it's not going to move the needle a lot depending on the endorsement. Like I say, celebrity endorsements don't move the needle. But if Trump gets a celebrity endorsement, good. I mean, they have influence somewhat. Maybe they affect 2 votes, whatever. But it's interesting because Biden doesn't have any celebrity endorsements that are like relevant celebrities that I could really think of. They're promoting some Star Wars washed up guy from many years ago, like boomer Democrats that always have been Democrats since the 70s that literally nobody cares about. Like, that's who he has. Like, Trump's celebrity roster is arguably filled with more star power than Biden's at this point. Now, that might change as we get closer to the election, but even you have people, far left-wing celebrities that are saying, I don't want to vote for Biden. We're not voting for you. Like Macklemore, who's, kind of washed up, but he was a big Biden guy, big Hillary Clinton guy, and now he's anti-Biden because of Palestine. So it's like, yeah, this is something that is affecting Biden's reputation among certain celebrities, because if they come out in support of Biden, then they're going to have a lot of annoying people on social media come out and start attacking them. And they don't want that either. Just like they endorsed Biden so people wouldn't attack them. But the tides are turning. The climate is shifting. I'm telling you. Maybe a couple years ago, I thought that, okay, maybe it's peaking. But then I didn't want to be too naive. But then I've seen the past 2 years. And it's like, yeah, the tides have turned a great deal. They have turned a great deal. There's something happening. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's vibes, but vibes do matter. They matter. Let's see. We have more super chats. I am Charles says, when the Dems refuse to certify the election, what happens next? I don't know. It's very possible they do refuse. But again, a lot of Republicans didn't want to do it either, and we saw what happened. I mean, it's true. The election denier pendulum is going to be insane if Trump wins. The things you're about to witness are insane. Whatever people called 1-6, if you think they're going to just quietly be sheepish, I don't know what to tell you. If Donald Trump goes out there and wins, I mean, even in 2016, where there were no election concerns at the time because the whole Russia thing wasn't fully promoted, they were still in Portland burning things down. So if you think there's not going to be any protests or anything again, well, you're wrong. Punch a Bear says, thanks to the suburban white women who hate Trump. Well, they've always hated Trump, though. He won despite that in 2016, and I think he can very well win despite it in 2024. Biden is not popular. Biden's lost a lot of popularity since then. It's not like Trump hasn't flipped any voters, because every poll shows otherwise, whether the polls are wrong or not. Sean Romero for 20 says, happy birthday. Trump's first day in office should fire everyone, start new, so there's no chance of... Well, yeah. I mean, you definitely don't want leakers. But even some people he hired were leaking. And that's the problem. You can't hire the people that were staffing the Bush administration, or even in many cases, the first Trump administration, depending on who he's picking. But we'll be talking about that after the election if we cross that bridge at all, which I hope we really do. Marty Smith fan Sue for 10 says, happy birthday. Well, thank you. Thoughts on Henry Cuellar for VP? I love Byron best. I like Byron. I don't know if he's going to be chosen, but Cuellar endorsed Biden. Now, I do think that Trump was kind of, with that post that he made on Truth Social, he was baiting him to switch endorsements, but it didn't really pan out. So I don't think he's going to be, if you want, Tulsi would be a much better pick than Cuellar. I mean, she left the Democrats. Whether people think she's legitimate or not is irrelevant. So there's that. Secession Now says Rubio is for open borders against the second Israel first. Will stab Trump in the back. Well, he's not for open borders anymore, unless you think he's just been grifting the past 8 years, which I think it's more of a blow the way the wind does sort of thing. I mean, his Second Amendment bill was actually proposed by Trump, and he's backtracked on it, and I would hope Trump backtracks on that too. And if you really think Trump, if you can really name a VP for Trump that does not, if that's your issue, there's not a single Republican office holder in the country that is opposing Israel. Like some people will get mad at me for saying this, but it needs to be said. The anti-Israel sentiment on the right is a purely online phenomenon. Now, it's true that you have like Thomas Massie opposes foreign aid. I agree with Thomas Massie. I don't like foreign aid. I agree with the guy running that they tried to smear in Indiana and were abysmally just running his name through the mud because he opposed the Iraq war. He's right. We don't need to be sending anybody foreign aid. That includes the enemies of Israel, which we've been sending foreign aid to. The Iran deal, we send money to Iran. What do they do with that money? We send money to Gaza. What do they do with that money? We're funding both sides of mainly the Middle East conflict we fund both sides of, but we spend too much money on foreign conflicts. We need diplomacy. We need to end the conflicts and put our own country first. I don't think Trump picking a VP that has Trump's Israel position is going to be enough to say he can't pick this VP. Because if you think that Donald Trump is against Israel, you're wrong. I mean, that's plain and simple. Whether you want to critique his policy or not, it's irrelevant. So, it's true that I think that there are legitimate criticisms of the way that we've handled our foreign policy in the Middle East, and that does include Israel. I don't believe they're immune from criticism in any way. Doesn't mean I side with the enemies or that I don't want them to, fight for their own. They have the right. But in terms of just trying to be unpragmatic and say, I can't vote Republican because some office holders happen to have a position that every single Republican has, and a lot of Republican voters have, whether you think that position is good or not. I can't say that's a deal breaker. I can't. Now, if you want to start wars overseas, like Nikki Haley, that's one thing. And maybe that is a legitimate criticism of some of Rubio's foreign policy, because he has been more hawkish than I probably would like. But still, he talked Trump out of military action in Venezuela. He didn't have to do that. Trump wanted, that would have been another war we would have been in. But Rubio was the one that was saying, no, just do this strategy instead, and he did it. So Trump's going to make his pick, whether it's Marco, Burgum, Carson, Zeldin, whatever. He's going to make his decision. But it's not like people get mad because I happen to just look at the full picture here. Who knows who he's going to pick? But everybody's going to find something, that's some position that they just happen to disagree with and run with it. I mean, I'm not going to be, I could point to disagreements I've had with every possible VP option. You want me to talk about why I would think that Rubio would be weak? I could do it for 10, 15 minutes. The problem is I could do it for Tim Scott for an hour. I could do it for Burgum for 20. And there's not even that much dirt on Burgum that people know. So, I don't know. He's going to make his pick. We're going to let him make his pick. And we're going to vote for that ticket. We're going to beat Biden. We're too, our backs are against the wall as a country. Too much to play around, gamble, do whatever. We need to win this thing. That's what we need to do. Because we cannot take 4 more years. You talk about the open borders. The only way it's going to be stopped is Donald Trump winning and deporting these people. And regardless of whoever he picks as VP, there is not a single option that has openly stated that Trump should not be deporting these people. In fact, all of them, I believe, have come out and said that he should be deporting all of these people. And that is something that we need to do, because we cannot win elections if these people are allowed to stay and get amnesty. And Trump does not support amnesty. And Trump has more of a reason to deport people than he had in 2016, because you have all these new arrivals. The public, which was only like 30% in support of mass deportations in 2016, is now 60% in favor of mass deportations now. That's something that needs to be taken into consideration. That's the number one issue, in my opinion, and that needs to be dealt with, and we need to win this election. And that's it. Marty Smith Fan Sue says, I felt a huge upswing in 2010, and it was a swell like a boil ready to bust, and the Tea Party kick butt. That's what I am seeing. Well, we'll see. You know, Tea Party 2010, very low turnout. We thought we would get another 2010 2 years ago. Didn't happen. So we'll see. Let's see. I didn't even say Rubio over Zeldin. I just said Rubio's higher on the short list. I didn't even say Rubio over Donalds. I don't know. I'm just saying there were 4 names on the short list that I heard that multiple people reported, multiple people corroborated, and maybe it's a head fake. It was Rubio, Vance, who I probably would say is the best on the issues. But in terms of the ticket, you're taking a good senator out of Ohio, and then there it goes. So, yep. Naira Malt says, right-in libertarian hesitance on Israel aid is based on wise fiscal policy. Trump's policies helped Israel and save money. He has the receipts. Yeah, I mean, he sent aid, which is kind of one of the reasons why I feel like, you know, if we've been building the defense system, giving all this aid, maybe there's a reason that we just could have the fiscal means of saying we don't need to send more. And that means cutting off aid for the others as well, because we send aids to, or we buy things from Iran that we have no business buying. We give them money to make sure that they have no nukes. And what do? They fund groups with that. We spend a lot of foreign aid on countries that are for and against. And that's definitely something that you could maybe say is causing the conflict. So in terms of that, we need the peace deals. If Donald Trump can get these people in a room and do business with them, then we're not going to have to be spending money on Israel and all these other places in the Middle East, and we're not going to have to be spending money on Ukraine, and we're not going to have to spend money making sure that we have to be monitoring what's going on in, you know, Central America in some places. Trump's actually come up with insanely creative policies of sending in sleepers and agents into the drug cartels in Mexico and just going out there and decimating them from the inside. How have we not thought of that before? It's been how many years? And it takes almost an 80-year-old guy to come up with this plan. Seriously, you need people. We don't need to be fighting. Obviously, I think a war with the cartels is winnable. I think it possibly could benefit us, but I don't like the idea of staging a full-scale war south of the border. I think Trump's plan is genius, and it would really put the cartels out of business if he's able to go out there, decimate the cartels from within. That's what I want to do. I don't want to be spending money on foreign aid, but at the end of the day, it is true that this sentiment is not and maybe it's a generational thing, you could say. Maybe it possibly in 30, 40 years, it's going to be different, and maybe you're right. But hopefully by then it'll be under control and it won't be an issue anyways, and we won't be sending, tens of billions of taxpayer dollars overseas, because I think it's honestly disgraceful that we do that. It doesn't even matter if we're an ally or we support them or not. It's irrelevant. I think we don't need to be doing it. We need to be de-escalating conflict first. And then if there is any aid, it should be conditional. If we're going to give you something, it's a business. We better be getting something in return that benefits our country, benefits our people. That's it. But that's it. Rivlino says anti-Israel Republicans don't exist IRL. Vast majority of right-wingers like Israel. Trump's the most pro-Israel yeah, I'm just saying it's a phenomenon that is mainly on the internet. Whether you agree with some of the concerns or not, you cannot deny that it's mainly something that's not entirely in real life. Now, maybe that's going to change. Like I said, maybe it will change 20, 30 years from now. But by then, I would hope that we wouldn't be having to fund conflicts and that everything would be at bay. We'd have actual leadership in positions that can de-escalate conflicts. That's ideally what I would want. And we need to be tough on, even our allies, we need to be tough on them. Doesn't matter where they are or who they are. We need to be tough. We can't be going out here and bending over backwards for other nations, even if we are supposed to be on good terms or like them. We need to be putting our own interests first. That's it. We can have alliances of sorts, but just like with trade, you can't have the trade relationship that we have with a country like China. You can't have that. Marty Smith Fan Sue says, my question was your thoughts on Cuellar being indicted, not for VP. Okay, I misread. But, it is true. I don't know if Trump is right that he's being indicted to cover up the fact that he's been critiquing Biden's border policy. John Fetterman hasn't been indicted, and he's done the same thing, and it's all performative. The guy still votes with Biden 90% of the time. I think Trump is baiting an endorsement from him and making him switch his endorsement. I don't think it's going to happen. But I do think that him being indicted, it could be because Biden wants to say, or the DOJ wants to say, look at us, we're unbiased. We're taking out a Democrat. But in reality, the guy actually did things that were somewhat corrupt, and he's also a thorn on the Democrat side on a few issues. Like, that part is true, what Trump said, that they're more likely to throw him under the bus because of that, yeah. Instead of somebody like Bob Menendez, who there's so much subject matter, but he's not going to be indicted. They'll just, let him retire. They'll retire him. That'll be it. So there's that. Secession Now says Tucker Carlson, Ben Carson, Steve Bannon, Mike Flynn, VP pick doesn't matter, only loyalty. None of the ones you mentioned are loyal to him. Well, none of those people are going to be picked as VP. Maybe Carson, but even then, I've heard he's ruled out. Maybe he's not. He didn't go to the whole VP dinner. So, like I said, loyalty is important. You don't need somebody who's going to backstab the agenda. But in terms of loyalty, it's not like you don't have people that are loyal or will pretend to be loyal and stab Trump in the back. I don't think any of those people are necessarily backstabbers, but Tucker 4 years ago, he was critiquing Trump a lot. I agree with some of the critiques that Carlson said, about the riots and everything like that, and having certain advisors run his administration that were not good advisors. Tucker's right. But, behind closed doors, he said certain things allegedly in tech. I don't hold it against Tucker, whatever. But I'm just saying, if you're Trump, are some of these guys even all that loyal? Like, didn't Trump fire Steve Bannon? I like Steve Bannon. I don't have anything against him. I've been on his show a few times. It was years ago. But I'm sure Trump might put him in the cabinet again somewhere, but VP pick for somebody he fired from his administration, gave him a nickname on Twitter. Yeah, I don't know. And again, you have somebody that has a lot of baggage legally, which a lot of it is bogus. But in terms of how people are perceiving certain things, I don't think any of those four would add something to the ticket. Does anybody know who Mike Flynn is outside of like the hardcore like MAGA circles, mainly like boomers and things like that? I've never even seen the guy speak before. I think I saw him at the RNC in 2016, but I don't even really remember his speech very much. So there's that. I mean, all these people that you mentioned would be great in like an advisory role or a cabinet role because those positions end up having more pull than the VP. The VP is like a facade. That's what I'm trying to get at, is the VP is a little bit of an overrated position. Now, some people disagree. Some people think that, oh, well, what if they take Trump, they try to coup him or something in one way or another. But if that's the case, why wouldn't they just do it to the next guy in line? Like with Nixon, you got President Ford. They got Nixon out of there. They made Agnew step down. They got the Rockefeller Republican in there, in Ford. So, when you look at that, it's like, I don't know if the VP pick, like being somebody who's like a diehard supporter, is really what Trump is even looking for, because none of the people that you listed are on his short list and he's the one making it, unless he's got something behind the scenes that's like 35 each, and maybe he does. I don't know. Maybe we don't even know the VP. Trump is somebody that comes up with, these schemes. Nobody really would have thought about Mike Pence in May of 2016. Nobody would have thought of him, but that's who Trump went with, and for better or worse. Obviously, now we want somebody that's better than Pence is now, but we need somebody who helps him win. We need somebody who's not going to stab his agenda. And in terms of some of these other people, like everybody on that list has supported some form of increasing immigration, has supported some sort of, non-social conservative policy. And I'm not a fan of that. But you have to pick the person that in the here and now you think is going to be the most solid and go from there. So we'll see. CCM 28 says libertarian stubborn idealism is annoying. There will never be a perfect there will never be a perfect candidate, and that's the problem with the third parties. They say we're fed up with the two-party system. Well, if you look at some of these people and what they believe, they have a lot of disagreements with their own third-party candidates that they're submitting the protest votes for. I mean, it's a system we have in place. I think it's a cop-out. I think big money in politics is a problem. I think there's plenty of problems in politics. But in terms of the, perfect, it's got to be this, like, yeah, there's things that I disagree with Trump on, obviously. I don't feel the need to talk about them 24/7 because I want him to win, and I don't feel like it's productive to sit here 6 months before an election and talk about how I disagree with the bump stock ban from 2018. I think it's dumb. Which again, it's irrelevant now because it's been ruled unconstitutional. So any gun control Trump pushed through is done. So, all the arguments that I've even critiqued Trump on, some things he's actually proven me wrong on. The unendorsement of Mo Brooks, I was like, why is he doing that? This is not good. And then Mo Brooks goes full Lincoln Project, and I'm like, okay, you know what? Trump was actually right. He was vindicated. So there's that. But it's true. There will probably never be somebody that's perfect or ideal on everything, and that's just the way it is. So we need to win this election. The VP pick is supposed to help Trump in some way or another. That's the role. Hopefully they will. I don't know who it's going to be. I really wish I could tell you who it's going to be or say that they're going to be the best person ever and they're going to help Trump win and be the successor to the movement and he'll pass the baton. I just don't see that person that fits both criteria. If he goes with Vance, it'll be interesting because I feel like that's the one person he picks that would be, a shoo-in for the 28 primary. But even then, that's not a sure thing. But again, like I said, he's probably got, you could say he's got the best record in the Senate. He's definitely been a better senator than Rubio. He's also been a Trump supporter for less time, which again, I don't hold against Vance. But the media will drive that wedge. It's not like he was a primary opponent of Trump and he got behind him. This is a guy who opposed Trump in the 2016 general election, continued to trash him until his awakening in 2018, which I think was genuine. I think his record shows that it's genuine, but I'm just saying he doesn't have a lot of experience, which I don't think that's a bonus. He'd open up his Senate seat, which would weaken it, probably get a Senator Dolan or a Senator LaRose or somebody, and they may lose a special election too. You know, you don't want that to happen. Ohio, low turnout. Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows? But Tim Scott is a disaster of epic proportions. Burgum I see being propped up, but I feel like he's more of a cabinet guy at most. And Vance is somebody doesn't have a lot of experience, would open up the Senate seat. Rubio is somebody that does have past, problems like the amnesty bill, but that was 10 years ago. So there's so many things that are needing to be considered. It's not going to be somebody that you really like. It's not supposed to be somebody that you really like. It's sort of like they're going to be out there and they're going to help expand the coalition, or at least doesn't hurt the coalition and help Trump across the finish line. And probably somebody that will please donors to a certain degree is good, because I feel like Vance would turn off some donors. And while I don't like these big donors, money in politics, I'm not saying Trump needs to outspend Biden, but you need some money to mount your campaign. You need some money. And Trump has money, but if Trump is outspending Biden, it's over. Which, again, outside PACs and everything like that, he is actually pretty much even, which is incredible. Now, as for Youngkin, I just don't think he's on the short list. In theory, would not be the worst pick. Would not be the worst pick in theory, although you would put an establishment favorite for 28 up there, which, again, like I said, it's not a guarantee. But somebody like Youngkin would fit somebody more mild-mannered, but still has some ounce of a personality, can debate, you name it, that type of stuff. Dylan Hanneman says, happy birthday. Well, thank you. Noah Boyd for 10 says, will you be married in the next 2 years? Yeah, probably not. Probably not. In the next 8 years, maybe, but the next 2 years, got a lot of stuff on my plate. A lot of stuff. So I can't say that. Crazier things have happened, though, so we'll see. Somebody said Devin Nunes. I don't know much about him. He does fit the loyalty thing well, but he also has a electoral. He's been an overperformer, so I wouldn't think that he's the worst option. I just don't think I'd rather have a Byron Donalds be on the ticket than Devin Nunes. I mean, he's running Trump's companies right now. I think that's something that Trump is going to want him to do. He's doing a good job. He's getting Trump billions of dollars. So Fox Mulder says, I heard banks are going to a cashless system soon. Would that be the end of the drug cartels? Cash is king? I have no idea. I think they probably would find ways around it. I don't think that reducing cash flow, which we've been doing, in terms of regular cash, has led the drug cartels to have less influence, so I don't think it would. But yeah, I agree Youngkin's better than a lot of choices. I just don't believe he's on the short list. Does Marsha Blackburn shoot dogs? I don't believe so. Yeah, Noam. She was always awful. Noam was arguably worse than Haley before the dog incident, because she's somebody who wears the MAGA hat, but is very subversive, was a total rhino neocon in the House, and a very overrated governor by a lot of people. She wanted to shut her state down. She didn't shut her state down. And all of the baggage she brought before that, and all the baggage she's added, the self-implosion, it's one of the most ridiculous things that you've possibly seen in political history. So, someone said, happy actual birthday. My actual birthday was yesterday. This is just the birthday stream. Every year we do one. So there's that. Yeah, I honestly, I'm glad she imploded. Stefanik is somebody that has a voting record that was atrocious. I mean, she was like Murkowski, Collins level bad back in the first 4 years of her Congress. It's improved, just like Marco's record is improved. She's just somebody, again, like Rubio, who blows the way the wind does. I think she would be loyal. I don't think she would stifle Trump's agenda, but I don't know what electorally she really adds to the ticket. She's not really like a great selection. I mean, she's from New York, but I don't think Trump's going to win New York with or without his VP pick. He'll improve, but yeah. Someone said she's great. Well, I mean, grifters can be loyal, believe it or not. If you are a grifter, but you are picked to be Trump's running mate, but you don't have a history of being actively subversive to Trump's agenda, I don't know if you could say it's like the worst thing in the world. Like, oh, well, they're doing it because they want a job. Like, okay, well, that's politics in general. I think it's politics. Trump's going to have to pick a politician to be his running mate. It's just kind of the way it goes. Maybe less so now because Trump has more governing experience where it's not a requirement like it was in 2016. But let's be real here. But yeah, Stefanik is somebody that I think is going for House leadership. She was at the top of the shortlist maybe a couple of years ago, and she's fallen. She's tumbled down. I don't think Trump is on bad terms with her, but I don't know. We'll see. Paul Gosar, I love Paul Gosar, but I mean, the guy, he has health issues. He's very old. I mean, if you've met the guy, which I have, you could tell he definitely, in terms of his speaking ability, it's not peak performance. I'll say that. And I really like and respect the guy a lot. He's one of the best in Congress, but in terms of VP, yeah, it's not gonna. Maybe if he was younger. But he's good in the House. He can do his job well, and I think he'll serve another term. And we'll see who replaces him. President Biden says, honestly, 2 suggestions are Gabbard or Donalds. Those are possibly it as well. Secession Now says Rubio's Mike Johnson of the Senate. I actually think John Barrasso is probably the Mike Johnson of the Senate. I think Rubio's like the Elise Stefanik of the Senate, to be honest. Maybe a little bit not as bad of a record previously, but I think that's probably the best comparison. Or Rick Scott. Somebody said, well, Rick Scott's a really mixed bag. He's willing to oppose like McConnell at certain times, but he also like touts, like he comes up, he proposes these bills that are train wrecks, and then he walks them back. He's not the worst senator, but he's far from the best. And he really fumbled the bag in 2022. He really fumbled the bag. But like I said, we'll see who Trump picks. I'm getting behind the ticket regardless of who he picks, and I encourage everybody else to get behind whoever else he picks. So we'll see. He's not going to pick Rick Scott. Yeah, it's true. And honestly, being bald, yeah, it is kind of a deal breaker for some people. You would be surprised how many like successful electoral juggernaut politicians are bald. Think about it. Are there that many of them? Probably not. I can't think of any. Maybe somebody else can come up with one. But I don't know. It is true. I mean, he gets clowned on for it. Like physiognomy, appearance, these things matter, and they're perfect for a VP. Like you need a VP that makes the ticket aesthetic. No homo or anything like that, but you need somebody who can stand with Trump. They have to vibe well. They're well put together. You don't want somebody who's like sloppy or anything like that to be on the ticket. Like these things matter because that's what the VP's for. It's not for, they got to be really good on policy because they don't do much with policy. They just have to not be actively subversive like Kristi Noem or Nikki Haley or somebody along those lines. CCM28 says, has Rand Paul been mentioned yet? He'd be good. Honestly, Rand Paul isn't even endorsing Trump yet, which is a big, weird thing, and I hope that he really reverses course. But, I mean, like, I don't know what the guy's waiting for. You're a Republican. Republicans need to be endorsing the Republican nominee. Like, I get we're not to the convention yet. I'm not going to say that you had to endorse him the day he announced because late endorsements can carry weight, and people can withhold their endorsement, for greater effect later on. I believe that. But in terms of Rand Paul, like his stunt, well, I'm not going to endorse in the primary. I'm going to just say I don't want Nikki Haley, and then is flirting with RFK Jr., who is a total train wreck. Yeah, I don't know what the hell he's doing, but that's it. Let's see. Yeah, what is he doing? What is he doing? And again, Trump, they already ruled out Vivek, it seems like. He's in the circle, kind of, but he's not going to be VP. I know why people want him to be VP, but I don't think that you have two alpha dogs that they're going to work well together. I don't think he really adds much to the ticket. I think he's a very good advisor. He's a very good, honestly, press secretary. He'd really run circles around the press. He's very quick-witted, very well-spoken. I would have no problem with him doing that, but I think he could be in a policy role, a cabinet position. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't think it's going to... Yeah, Mike Lee is not really in consideration. And if he gets to be on Trump's ticket, Utah, again, they have a very rhino bench for the Senate. You'd have a rhino governor that would appoint a rhino to the Senate. I don't think that that's something that you would want. I really don't. So I like Mike Lee's. Again, he's improved a lot too. He's actually really improved quite a bit. So I do think that people in power, they can improve. I mean, to what extent is it like valid versus we could debate that. I mean, it is true that possibly they're doing because they don't want to get primary challenged or whatever. I don't know. But there's a lot to take into account. But I'm saying there's so many people that no matter who Trump picks are going to be really upset with the VP pick. But at the end of the day, people do have a tendency to just fall in line with what Trump says because, like, they realize they can't do anything about it because they know he has the power. They know that if Trump picks somebody, they're going to have to get behind it because, well, Trump trusts this person, the decision, whatever, for the most part. Unless Trump just completely, comes apart at the seams. Won't be Josh Hawley. He's not gonna. He's running for re-election, so I don't think it's gonna be him. But in terms of people, we'll see. So it's funny, we went the first 55 minutes of the stream without talking about the VP pick, and then we spent the next hour only talking about the VP pick, which is pretty funny. But I think we are going to end the stream in 3 minutes. We'd be going for 2 hours. So any last-minute super chats, I don't know if there's any left because we've gotten quite a bit. But make sure you guys like the stream before you go because let's get more likes than viewers. I think we can do it. We're like 70 away. We're 70 apart. So let's make it happen. So let's see. Tulsi will debate Kamala. It's about that. I mean, the VP debate is a lot of it. If you pick somebody who bombs the VP debate, it's like they can maybe hurt you a little bit. It's funny because Biden used to help Obama out on the VP debates. He didn't destroy Palin or Ryan, but I think that you could make the case that he had the upper hand. He had the upper, and times he had the optics where if you watch the debate, he had a lot of good moments against Ryan in 2012. That was before he fully came apart at the seams. So we'll see. Rust Belt VP. I don't really see one. Like Vance is like the only one that's on the short list, but I don't know if Trump's gonna pick him. Not a lot of experience, open Senate seat. There's a lot of question marks there. But we're gonna have to see. How could anyone lose a debate with? Well, they'd have to. There are people that can. You'd have to come off as more insufferable or just too weak. That's how you'd lose a debate to. I mean, Biden actually lost the debate to Kamala Harris. She was, I think so, the first debate. She was on the stage with him, viciously attacking him. She went up in the polls, and then Tulsi The next debate got rid of Kamala. Basically, it was over. So it's a little bit of a nuanced situation. But yeah, he laughed the whole time against Ryan. It's true, but I mean, that's kind of just like, it is a cop-out strategy, but it did, I think, help him a little bit that he took that strategy. Like I said, I don't think he destroyed Ryan, like some people mainly on the left would say, but it does feel like it now because, A, we really don't like Ryan. He's not even supporting Trump this time, it seems, and Biden has just mentally deteriorated over the past 12 years to the point where it's like, yeah, you know, we'll really have to see. But Trump will pick somebody. It's not going to be Mike Pence. It's not going to be Nikki Haley. It's not going to be somebody who's a total awful pushover for sure. And it's probably not going to be somebody that people are really going to like. It's not going to be somebody super based on literally everything. That's not what I believe Trump views the role of the VP to be. And that's it. Probably is going to pick somebody who helps him get more money. But if that helps him win, Trump is going to be the one securing the border. VP is just along for the ride. Jeremy G, this is going to be the last super chat of the night. Says, Red Eagle, which Senate seat will flip in 26, 28, 2030? There's so much to unpack there. I can't give an answer. It depends. I think there's a few that are flippable. Like, I think we could flip possibly Georgia in 2026, and Democrats are going to aim for Maine and North Carolina. 2028, again, we could try to go for the states we fell short in 2022. 2030, well, who knows what happens this time? So, anyways, guys, that's going to be it. That's going to do it. It was a great stream. Thank you for all of the birthday wishes. Happy Mother's Day to any mothers still out there in the audience. And we will be back with a video tomorrow. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but we'll see. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Before you go, like the stream, subscribe, hit the bell. I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.